Have you ever wondered if that old Washington quarter in your pocket might be worth more than 25 cents? Well, you're in for a surprise. Today we're counting down the top 10 ultra-rare Washington quarter dollar coins, the ones that collectors would pay thousands of dollars to own. 1985 Washington Quarter. The Washington Quarter was first introduced in 1932 to honor the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. The original design, created by sculptor John Flanagan, has been a staple of U.S. currency ever since. Over the decades, the design has remained mostly unchanged, featuring Washington's profile on the obverse, while the reverse originally depicted an eagle with outstretched wings. But what about the 1985 Washington Quarter? By this time, the coin had become a workhorse of the American economy. It was minted in huge numbers, with over 775 million coins struck that year. While not a rare year for quarters, there are some interesting details about this specific edition that collectors should know. On the obverse side, we have the familiar portrait of George Washington, designed by John Flanagan. His profile is sharp, with the word Liberty inscribed above, the year 1985 below, and the national motto, "In God We Trust," to the left. This design is simple yet iconic, and it's one that has been in circulation for decades. On the reverse, we see the bald eagle standing proudly with wings spread wide. Below the eagle is a bundle of arrows symbolizing military readiness and olive branches representing peace. Above the eagle is the inscription United States of America with E pluribus unum just below. And of course, the denomination quarter dollar is displayed at the bottom. Now, when looking at the value of a 1985 Washington quarter, it's important to pay attention to the mint mark. These coins were produced at 3 different mints: Philadelphia no mint mark, Denver marked with a D, and San Francisco marked with an S. Most quarters from this year were minted at Philadelphia and Denver for general circulation, but there are also proof versions from San Francisco. By 1985, quarters were no longer made from silver. Instead, they were composed of a clad combination of copper and nickel. Each coin weighs about 5.67 grams, with a diameter of 24.3 millimeters and a thickness of 1.75 millimeters. This copper-nickel clad composition makes it durable, though not quite as valuable as silver quarters from earlier decades. 1984 Washington Quarter. 1984 was a significant year in American history. The economy was recovering, and Ronald Reagan was in office. The quarter itself hadn't changed much since 1965, when the U.S. Mint stopped using silver and switched to a copper-nickel clad composition. The 1984 quarter is made up of 91.67% copper and 8.33% nickel. Now, let's talk about where these quarters were made. In 1984, Washington quarters were minted at 3 different locations: Philadelphia no mint mark, Denver D mint mark, and San Francisco S mint mark. Here's a breakdown of the mintages. Philadelphia produced over 676 million quarters. Denver produced about 546 million. San Francisco minted proof quarters with just under 3.4 million proof coins made for collectors. Proof coins, like the ones minted in San Francisco, are struck with specially polished dies, giving them a mirror-like finish, making them highly sought after by collectors. So, what is the value of a 1984 Washington quarter today? Well, if you find one in circulation, it's probably worth its face value minus 25 cents. But condition and rarity can make all the difference. For example, a regular circulated quarter from 1984 is only worth face value, but uncirculated ones, especially those in mint state MS65 and higher, can fetch around $10 to $20 depending on the quality. Top-tier coins like those graded MS67 by companies like PCGS or NGC can go for over $100. These coins are near perfect with very few imperfections. Proof coins from the San Francisco Mint, if they're in pristine condition, can also fetch a premium. These proofs can range from $5 to $15 depending on their condition, and if they are deep cameo, which is when the coin has a strong contrast between the frosted design and the mirrored background. 1965 Washington Quarter. However, 1965 was a major turning point for the Washington Quarter. Up until 1964, the U.S. mint struck quarters using 90% silver, but by the mid-1960s, silver prices began to rise significantly. To combat the rising cost of silver and a shortage of coins in circulation, the U.S. government made a big decision to remove silver from most circulating coins, including the Washington Quarter. Starting in 1965, the composition of the quarter changed to a copper-nickel clad, which is what we still use today. So no 1965 quarters contain silver. This change marked the beginning of a new era for the Washington Quarter in U.S. coinage in general. Let's take a closer look at the key features of the 1965 Washington Quarter. Composition, as mentioned earlier, the 1965 quarter is made of copper-nickel, with an inner core of pure copper sandwiched between 2 layers of copper-nickel alloy. It weighs 5.67 grams. Diameter 24.3 millimeters, the same as earlier silver quarters. Design: the obverse side features the iconic bust of George Washington, designed by John Flanagan, with the words "Liberty" above his head and "In God We Trust" on the left. The date, 1965, appears below his neck. On the reverse side, we have a heraldic eagle with outstretched wings, holding arrows in its talons. Above the eagle are the words United States of America and E pluribus unum, while the denomination quarter dollar is at the bottom. One thing to note is that the 1965 quarter doesn't have a mint mark. This is because in 1965, the US Mint temporarily removed mint marks from all coins to discourage hoarding during the coin shortage. Now on to what you're all probably waiting for. What's the value of a 1965 Washington quarter today? While this quarter doesn't contain silver, it still has some value for collectors depending on its condition. Circulated coins, most 1965 quarters that you'll come across in circulation today are only worth their face value of 25 cents, especially if they are worn and show signs of heavy use. Uncirculated coins, if you have a 1965 quarter in uncirculated condition, meaning it has never been used and shows no signs of wear, it can be worth anywhere from $1 to $10 depending on its overall quality. High-grade coins, the most valuable 1965 quarters are those that have been graded as mint state by a coin grading service like PCGS or NGC. High-grade coins in MS65 or better can be worth $25 to $50, with top specimens potentially fetching even higher prices at auction. It's also worth mentioning that if you ever come across a 1965 quarter with a silver appearance, it could be an error coin. A small number of 1965 quarters were mistakenly struck on leftover silver planchets from 1964. These error coins can be extremely valuable, sometimes selling for thousands of dollars. So how do you know if you've found a rare and valuable 1965 quarter? Look for errors. As I just mentioned, the silver error quarters are among the most sought after. If your 1965 quarter looks like it's made of silver, it's worth having it checked by a professional. Condition, always check the condition of your coins. The less wear and tear, the higher the potential value. Coins that have retained their luster and sharp details will typically command a higher price. 1966 Washington quarter. The year was 1966. The United States was in the midst of significant political and cultural changes, but there was also a major shift happening in the world of coinage. The year 1965 marked the end of an era for silver coins. Because of rising silver prices, the U.S. Mint made a crucial decision to remove silver from most circulating coins. The Washington quarter, which had been made of 90% silver up until 1964, transitioned to a copper-nickel-clad composition starting in 1965. The 1966 Washington quarter is made of a copper core with a nickel-copper outer layer, often called copper-nickel-clad. It weighs about 5.67 grams and has a diameter of 24.3 m. No more silver. Now let's talk about the mintage numbers. 1966 was still part of the coin shortage period, so the U.S. Mint produced a huge number of these quarters to meet demand. In fact, over 821 million quarters were minted in 1966. You may have noticed there's no mint mark on these coins. That's because from 1965 to 1967, the U.S. Mint removed mint marks on all coins to discourage collectors from hoarding coins during this time of transition. All right, so let's get to what most of you are here for. How much is a 1966 Washington quarter worth? If you have a regular circulated 1966 quarter, unfortunately, it's not worth much more than face value, about 25 cents to 50 cents. Why? Because of the high mintage numbers and the fact that they contain no silver dot. But if you have a high-grade example, say an uncirculated or mint state coin, it can be worth a lot more. Coins graded MS65 or higher by organizations like the Professional Coin Grading Service PCGS or the Numismatic Guarantee Corporation NGC can fetch anywhere from $10 to $50 depending on the market. The record price for a 1966 Washington quarter was a coin graded MS67, which sold for over $2,500 at auction. Those are extremely rare though, and finding one in that condition is like winning the lottery. Now, here's where things get really interesting. Some 1966 Washington quarters can be worth a lot more if they have certain errors or varieties. Some known errors include double die obverse or reverse, where parts of the design are doubled, and off-center strikes, where the coin's image is not centered properly. These types of errors can increase the value significantly, sometimes reaching hundreds of dollars depending on the rarity and condition of the error. 1988 Washington quarter. Over the decades, the Washington quarter has become a staple in U.S. coinage. The 1988 edition falls within a period where the design remained largely unchanged, but its value in terms of collecting is what really sets it apart. Let's break down the details. The 1988 Washington quarter features the iconic John Flanagan design with George Washington's profile in the obverse. Above his head, you'll see the word Liberty, and just below, the national motto, "In God We Trust." The mint year 1988 is at the bottom. On the reverse, we have the majestic bald eagle with its wings spread, holding arrows and olive branches, symbolizing both war and peace. The word United States of America arches over the top, with $quarter written at the bottom. Now, let's talk about mint marks. The 1988 Washington quarter was struck at 3 different locations. The Philadelphia Mint No Mint Mark, or AP. The Denver Mint D Mint Mark. The San Francisco Mint S Mint Mark, but this one is reserved for proof coins. Check just to the right of Washington's ponytail for the mint mark. The type of mint mark can influence a coin's value. The 1988 Washington quarter isn't considered rare, but it's still interesting to look at the numbers. Here's the breakdown. Philadelphia Mint 562,052,000 coins produced. Denver Mint 596,810,000 coins produced. San Francisco Proofs 3,262,948 coins produced. These high numbers make the 1988 quarter fairly common in circulation, but special varieties or high-grade coins can still be valuable. 1978 Washington Quarter. The Washington Quarter was first introduced in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. Since then, it has become a staple of U.S. coinage. The original design, featuring a profile of George Washington on the obverse front, was created by sculptor John Flanagan. Fast forward to 1978, and while the quarter's design remained mostly unchanged, the composition and production had seen some updates. Most notably, by this time, the quarter no longer contained silver. Instead, it was made of a copper nickel-clad composition dot. Let's talk about the specifics of the 1978 Washington Quarter. Here's what you should know. Year of issue 1978. Composition copper nickel-clad outer layer is 75% copper, 25% nickel, inner core is pure copper. Weight 5.67 grams. Diameter 24.3 millimeters. Mint marks, no mint mark. If your quarter doesn't have a mint mark, it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. If there's a D below the wreath on the reverse, that's from the Denver Mint. 1978 wasn't exactly a rare year for the Washington Quarter. Over 520 million were minted in Philadelphia and another 287 million in Denver. So, as you can imagine, finding one isn't too difficult. With such a high mintage, you won't likely stumble upon a rare 1978 quarter in your pocket change. But as with all coins, condition is key, and there are some that hold more value than their face. So how much is your 1978 Washington Quarter worth? Well, in general, quarters from this year are still worth just 25 cents in circulated condition. However, collectors are always on the lookout for coins in uncirculated or high-grade conditions. In mint state or MS, graded coins can be worth a little more. Circulated face value 25 cents. MS 63 uncirculated around $3 to $5. MS 65 higher uncirculated grade $10 to $15. Now, these prices can fluctuate based on demand and market trends, but a pristine 1978 quarter graded MS 65 or higher could fetch a decent premium over its face value. 1998 Washington Quarter. Before we talk about the 1998 Washington Quarter specifically, let's take a quick look back at the history of the Washington Quarter series. Introduced in 1932 to honor the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth, this quarter replaced the Standing Liberty design. The obverse or front of the coin features a portrait of George Washington, while the reverse has undergone several changes over the years. But for the 1998 quarter, we're still looking at the classic design before the state quarters program began in 1999. The design by John Flanagan remained largely unchanged until the late 90s when the state quarters program introduced new reverse designs for each state. That means the 1998 quarter was part of the last batch of the classic Eagle reverse quarters. Now let's break down the design of the 1998 quarter. On the obverse, you'll see George Washington's profile facing left. Above him is the word Liberty, and to the left, you have the date 1998 with the mint mark directly below it. The motto "In God We Trust" is also on the left. Turning to the reverse, we have the iconic eagle with its wings spread wide, perched on a bundle of arrows. The inscription United States of America arcs above the eagle, with E pluribus unum below it. The denomination quarter dollar is found at the bottom. It's a simple yet classic design that has endured for decades and remained popular with collectors. When it comes to mintage, the 1998 quarter was struck in 3 locations: Philadelphia no mint mark, Denver D mint mark, and San Francisco S mint mark. The Philadelphia Mint produced over 896 million quarters, while the Denver Mint produced around 821 million. These numbers are relatively high, meaning the 1998 quarter is generally common. The San Francisco Mint produced proof quarters, but these are different from circulation quarters. Proof quarters are struck with higher detail and have a mirror-like finish. If you find an S mint mark, that indicates it's a proof coin, which tends to be more valuable to collectors. 1980 Washington Quarter. The Washington Quarter has been in circulation since 1932, designed to honor the first president of the United States, George Washington, for his 200th birthday. Designed by John Flanagan, this iconic coin features Washington's portrait on the obverse, while the reverse side displays a majestic eagle with outstretched wings. The 1980 Washington Quarter is part of this long-running series, and while it may seem common, understanding its history and key features can help you spot those rare and valuable finds. First, let's talk about mint marks. In 1980, quarters were minted in 3 locations: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Here's how to spot where yours was made. No mint mark, this quarter was minted in Philadelphia. D mint mark, this one comes from Denver. S mint mark, a proof quarter from San Francisco, and these were never intended for general circulation. Now, the Philadelphia and Denver coins are far more common, while San Francisco proof coins are more collectible. But we'll get into values in just a moment. Before we move on, let's take a quick look at what was happening in 1980. This was a year marked by rising inflation, the election of Ronald Reagan as president, and key advancements in technology. The quarter in your pocket was a reflection of the times made from copper nickel, as the U.S. had phased out silver in quarters by 1965. So no silver content here, but that doesn't mean it's not valuable. Now let's talk about what really matters: condition. Like most coins, the value of your 1980 Washington quarter depends heavily on its grade. Grading is the process of determining a coin's condition from poor to perfect. For circulated quarters, Expect wear on Washington's hair, the eagle's wings, and the high points of the design. A quarter in average circulated condition might only be worth its face value minus 25 cents. However, if you have an uncirculated or high-grade specimen, your coin could be worth a lot more. So how much can a 1980 Washington quarter be worth? In circulated condition, it's typically worth around 25 cents to $1. In uncirculated condition, prices range between $5 and $15. For proof quarters, particularly those from San Francisco with an S mint mark, you could be looking at values between $3 and $10 depending on the grade. High-grade specimens graded by PCGS or NGC, particularly those with an MS65 rating or higher, can sell for $50 or more. 1996 Washington quarter. The Washington quarter first made its debut back in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. Since then, it's become a staple of U.S. currency. But what makes the 1996 quarter stand out? Well, it comes right before a major turning point in U.S. coinage history, the state quarters program, which began in 1999. The Washington quarter's design was originally created by sculptor John Flanagan, and it featured George Washington's profile on the obverse side with an eagle on the reverse. This iconic design stayed pretty much the same until the state quarters started rolling out. So the 1996 Washington quarter is among the last in the traditional design series, giving it an interesting place in coin collecting history. Now, let's talk about the mint marks. The 1996 Washington quarter was minted in 3 different locations: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. You can tell where your quarter was minted by looking for the small letter on the front of the coin, right next to Washington's ponytail. If you see a P, your quarter was minted in Philadelphia, which produced over 925 million of these coins in 1996. AD means it was minted in Denver, which made about 906 million. Finally, an S means the coin came from San Francisco, but these quarters are part of the proof sets with only 2 million proof coins minted that year. Proof coins are special because they have a high quality finish and were not meant for circulation. They're primarily collected for their stunning mirror-like appearance. Let's take a closer look at the design. On the obverse, we have Washington's familiar portrait surrounded by the inscriptions "Liberty, in God We Trust," and the mint year 1996. On the reverse, the eagle is spread majestically, clutching arrows and an olive branch, symbols of strength and peace. The words United States of America and quarter dollar are inscribed around the rim. 1998 Dameg Washington quarter. The Washington quarter dollar was first minted in 1932 to honor the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. The design features a left-facing bust of Washington on the obverse and an eagle on the reverse, which has seen various modifications over the decades. On-screen graphics images of the 1932 quarter and the 1998 design. The 1998 quarter was part of the ongoing series featuring this iconic design, which continues to be beloved by collectors. Let's look at the specifics of the 1998 quarter. Minted in Philadelphia, no mint mark; in Denver with D mint mark. Composition 91.67% copper and 8.33% nickel. Diameter 24.26 mm. Weight 6.25 grams. In terms of value, a standard 1998 Washington quarter in circulated condition typically ranges from 25 to 50 cents. However, if you have a quarter in uncirculated condition, it could be valued at $1 to $2 or more, depending on the market. But wait, what if your 1998 quarter is clipped? A clipped coin occurs when a blank planchet is not properly fed into the coin press, resulting in a piece of the coin being missing. Clipped coins can be quite rare and valuable. A clipped 1998 quarter can be worth significantly more than its standard counterparts, often ranging from $5 to $20 or more, depending on the severity of the clip and the coin's overall condition. To identify a clipped coin, look for irregular edges. Instead of the usual round edge, a clipped coin will have a missing section, often resembling a bite taken out of the coin. You can also compare it to a standard quarter to see the difference in shape. If you're just starting out in coin collecting, here are some tips. Educate yourself, read books, and watch videos about coins. Join a community, engage with fellow collectors online or in local clubs. Handle coins carefully, always hold coins by the edges to avoid fingerprints. This will help you identify details that can affect a coin's value. Thanks for joining us today as we explored the 1998 Washington quarter dollar. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an update. Share your thoughts or questions in the comments below. Do you have any interesting quarters in your collection? Until next time, keep searching for those hidden treasures.